What's going on, everybody out there watching this? If you watched any of my other videos about wrestling or my NFL picks or whatever, thank you very much. I really appreciate it if you watched any of my other videos. This video I'm doing right now is the Year in Wrestling 2003 Part 1. I'll be talking about Royal Rumble, No Way Out, in WrestleMania 19, and a little bit of NWA TNA wrestling. So I'm going to start it off talking about, I believe this show took place in January. It must have, because January 2003 was the 10th anniversary of Monday Night Raw. Right here's the DVD. Raw's 10th anniversary special. It took place from the World in New York, which was also formerly known as WWF New York, the restaurant. I believe WWE still owned the World, the restaurant, until I think 2004-05, and then they got out of the restaurant business. I always thought WWF New York, I always thought it was a pretty good idea for them to start that restaurant. I believe they started it in 99 or 2000 during the Attitude Era. I thought it was a great idea, but obviously it didn't work because they closed down, or WWE just took their name off of the restaurant, and I guess they took their name off the restaurant because they didn't want to be in business anymore with the owners of the restaurant. I don't know who owned it, or whatever. Maybe WWE owned the restaurant in New York City, wanted to charge them more money for rent. I don't know. But they closed the World, which was WWF New York. But in 2003, we all know WWF was no more. It was WWE. Anyways, the 10th anniversary of Raw show took place because Raw started in January 93, and it returned in January 2003 to New York City, but it wasn't a wrestling show. It was just like an awards show. There was no matches on it, no live matches, just giving out awards for Raw. Some of the awards were, let's see here. Some of the awards were Diva of the Decade. Diva of the Decade, I believe the people in it were Sable, Chyna, Trish Stratus, I think Lita, and I think that's it. Anyways, Trish Stratus won the Diva of the Decade award. Raw's greatest match of the decade, I guess. It was voted and won Raw's greatest match. It was TLC from October 7th, 2002. TLC won for Raw's greatest match. And Raw was 10 years old. And on this DVD they show a lot of great past Monday Night Raw moments, like Y2J Chris Jericho's debut in 99. Mick Foley winning the WWF Championship from The Rock on Raw. Stone Cold pouring concrete into Mr. McMahon's limo. 1-2-3 Kid defeating Razor Ramon in 93 on Raw. So this DVD is pretty good, pretty entertaining. It took place in January 2003. Raw's 10th anniversary show. Now I'm going to talk about the Royal Rumble 2003 pay-per-view. And stuff that I thought was good, in matches that I enjoyed and that I think are worth talking about. That's what I'm going to talk about stuff that I enjoyed at the Royal Rumble 03. Brock Lesnar, in the first match of the pay-per-view, Brock Lesnar defeated The Big Show to earn a spot in the Royal Rumble match. He had to defeat Big Show. He did, so he goes on to the Rumble. The Dudley Boys defeated the Raw World Tag Team Champions William Regal and Lance Storm to win the tag team titles. That was a fun match. I was happy the Dudleys won. Torrie Wilson defeated Dawn Marie. It wasn't a good match, but they're both pretty good, nice to look at. And this was bad, bad, bad. This was a god-awful match, and you cannot blame Triple H. It was the Raw World Heavyweight Champion, Triple H, defending against Scott Steiner, Big Papa Pump. This was Scott Steiner's, I believe, first one-on-one match on the WWE pay-per-view. So it was his pay-per-view wrestling debut. He had an injured ankle going into the match. They signed him where his body was already pretty beat up. But WWE still signed Scott Steiner. He had a bad injured ankle. He had it taped up every single match he was in. Scott Steiner in his WWE run was, from late 2002 to, I guess, late 2003, his run was pretty awful and not memorable at all. His run in WWE sucked, and it was partially because he was injured. So, Scott Steiner and Triple H have one of the worst world heavyweight title matches I've ever seen. It was bad. It was god-awful. It was a mess. There were botches in it. Scott Steiner did nothing to Triple H except keep chopping him and punching him. Chopping him, punching him, chopping him, punching him, or kicking him. That's all Scott Steiner could do for offense. He had nothing, and he basically had nothing left to give to the wrestling business. It was pretty sad and pretty pathetic to see Scott Steiner in that match, and how he performed was pathetic. And it wasn't Triple H's fault. I'm sure Triple H tried his hardest to bring a good match out of Scott Steiner and carry him, but it didn't work. So thankfully, Triple H won by DQ when Triple H used a sledgehammer and got DQ'd, and I don't know why in the hell they booked a rematch, Triple H, Scott Steiner, for No Way Out. That was a bad idea. Up next, you had SmackDown SmackDown WWE Champion Kurt Angle defend against Chris Benoit. They had a great match. They tore it up. It was great. 30-man over the top rope, Royal Rumble. We all know Brock Lesnar won it. And this was Brock's first ever Rumble match that he was in. And he wins it. During the Rumble match, you had Tommy Dreamer in it. I believe Kane was in it. Rey Mysterio, Chris Jericho, Shawn Michaels was in it for a very short time. But I was happy to see Shawn Michaels in it, and then he gets thrown out by Chris Jericho. And I believe Jericho already got thrown out, but he ran down to the ring, threw HBK over the top to set up their WrestleMania 19 matchup. So Jericho throws HBK over the top and then attacks him on the outside of the ring and busts him open. Shawn Michaels was bleeding. And I believe Jericho had a cut and a big lump on his head, like this large. A big lump sticking out of his head because he was hit, I believe, with a kendo stick by Tommy Dreamer, I believe. So Jericho had a giant mark on his head, a bump, whatever you want to call it, giant bump on his head. And I believe he was cut the hard way. He was busted open the hard way, and Shawn Michaels bled by cutting himself. So that set up their match eventually for WrestleMania 19. And the Jericho HBK feud, that was pretty damn good idea, good booking to have Jericho attack and eliminate Shawn Michaels at the Rumble. So Brock Lesnar wins the 30-man Royal Rumble. Team Angle's in there, Benjamin and Hoss. Brock destroyed them throughout. I believe Matt Hardy F5'd Matt Hardy over the top rope, and he taking out Team Angle. That was an awesome spot. Brock wins the Royal Rumble 2003, well deserving. Brock is a beast, and it was good to see Brock win the Rumble. And he was a babyface. He was working as a babyface at the time. So Brock was getting cheered for once. Or he started working as a babyface in late 2002. So, and Brock at last eliminated The Undertaker to win it. So their feud goes back a long time. They're wrestling this Sunday at Hell in a Cell again. Now I'm going to talk about before No Way Out, I'll talk a little bit about NWA TNA and their pay-per-views, their weekly pay-per-views they put on that were on Wednesday nights for $9.99 or $10, whatever it costs. NWA TNA, I believe this was in January 2003. They had the Road Warriors come in. Road Warriors, aka Legion of Doom, whatever you want to call them. Road Warriors came in to NWA TNA for like 1 or 2 shows. And they wrestled, I believe, Hawk and Animal wrestled, I think, Sports Entertainment Extreme group. I don't really remember who they wrestled. Even though I ordered the pay-per-view, but I haven't watched it in probably 8 years or longer. Rock and Roll Express also worked an NWA TNA pay-per-view against America's Most Wanted. They had a pretty good tag match. And I think either Vader in 2003 or late 2002, Vader also worked an NWA TNA pay-per-view. These guys were never signed to contracts. They just came in for like 1 or 2 pay-per-views as a surprise and then would leave NWA TNA. Also Mabel, formerly Viscera, formerly Big Daddy V. Mabel also worked NWA TNA for like 1 show. I think it was in 2003. I don't remember. We also had guys like Jimmy Hart. Hacksaw Jim Duggan also worked NWA TNA for a couple shows. NWA TNA even actually tried to sign Hulk Hogan to a contract and get Hulk Hogan to come in. They had him cut promos, I believe, while he was in Japan wrestling. I think for New Japan Pro Wrestling, Hogan was over there wrestling in January 2003 before he returned to the WWE in February 2003 to take on The Rock and to do a little 2 or 3 month run back in the WWE. So Hogan, I believe, after he worked for New Japan, Jeff Jarrett went over there during a press conference. I believe after Hogan's match, Jarrett smashed a guitar over Hogan's head, busted him open. Hogan was laid out on the floor at the press conference in Japan. And then I guess they were trying to set up a Jarrett versus Hogan match in TNA in the future because they had Hulk Hogan actually cut promos to order their pay-per-views. Hogan actually cut promos and put his hand up and said, "Order the TNA's a place to be," or "This is where the power lies," pointing at his hand, saying NWA TNA is total non-stop action. This is a place to be. Obviously, a lot of people think, and it's probably true, that Hulk Hogan just used TNA to get back in the WWE and get a contract or get welcomed back in the WWE by Vince, and he was welcomed back in February 2003 or late January 2003 when Hogan returned on SmackDown. Or that was, I think, before WrestleMania 19. Hogan had a contract signing on SmackDown with Vince. That wasn't in January. Anyways, Hogan did return to wrestle The Rock in main event No Way Out 2003. So Hogan never went to NWA TNA, and I don't blame him. They were really a small company at the time, just doing weekly pay-per-view events. They had no cable TV deal or no TV deal at all yet. So now I'm going to talk about No Way Out 2003 pay-per-view, where we had Stone Cold Steve Austin finally return after he was gone for over 6 months. Or he was gone for 7 months. When everybody knows he left because he's burnt out and tired and he needed a break off the road, so he took his ball, and some people say he took his ball and went home. Whatever. I don't blame him. I'm not mad at him for doing it. A lot of people could compare what Stone Cold did to what CM Punk did later on, leaving the company, leaving WWE, and leaving and basically saying F you to Vince and F you to WWE. Punk did the same thing, but I don't think Stone Cold eventually returned. As I said at No Way Out 2003, if CM Punk does decide to return, I don't think it will be for... I think you have to wait at least 3 to 5 years for him to return, because it's not going to be anytime soon. He probably has a UFC contract for at least 3 more years. So now I'm going to talk about No Way Out, where Stone Cold returned and got a great reaction. The fans definitely did not forget about Stone Cold Steve Austin. No Way Out took place from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. The crowd was great. It was a hot crowd. To kick off the show, you had Jeff Hardy taking on Chris Jericho to kick off No Way Out. Jericho wins, I believe, by cheating, holding the tights or something. The crowd was really into this match. They were really into Jeff Hardy and Jericho. The crowd reaction was great to kick off No Way Out. HBK ran down to the ring, I believe, after the match. Super kicks Jericho, gets a pretty decent pop, but Shawn is also getting booed because it's Montreal and that's where WWE screwed Bret. So the fans are still booing and giving Shawn Michaels heat and giving HBK a hard time because he was involved in WWE screwing Bret. So Shawn was still getting booed, which I thought was stupid. Montreal fans, hopefully they got over that by now. By Bret getting screwed, hopefully Montreal is over that. And the entire country of Canada is over Bret being screwed. Anyways, HBK runs in, super kicks Jericho, again to building their feud for WrestleMania 19 and the storyline. That was great to see. Up next, stuff that was good, you had the tag team champions William Regal and Lance Storm have a pretty good match, and they defeated RVD and Kane. RVD and Kane were they were a team for 3 or 4 months. I enjoyed them as a team, but I think they won the tag titles at WrestleMania 19 on Sunday Night Heat. Matt Hardy won the Cruiserweight title at No Way Out 03, defeating Billy Kidman. That was pretty decent. The Undertaker defeated The Big Show, which I don't remember at all, by disqualification, by submission. The Undertaker defeated The Big Show, which I must have blacked out of my head because I don't remember that taking place at No Way Out 03. This was also entertaining handicap tag match. Chris Jericho and Brock Lesnar, their partner, was supposed to be Edge. They did a backstage segment where Edge was laid out, I believe, and taken out on a stretcher. He had a neck injury and he was going to get neck surgery. So Edge was taken out of the match because he had a neck injury. And it was real life. He was going actually to get neck surgery. And he'd be gone for probably, he missed WrestleMania 20 and 19, so he was gone over a year. And Benoit and Lesnar defeated the team of Kurt Angle, Shelton Benjamin, and Charlie Haas, Team Angle, in a handicap match. That was good, as I said. Now this was god-awful and should have not taken place on a second pay-per-view in a row. The Raw World Heavyweight Championship was on the line. Triple H defending against Scott Steiner once again, and it was god-awful crap. It was shit. They just did not work well together. They didn't click. They didn't have chemistry. They had nothing in the ring together. The crowd, I think the crowd was cheering the whole time for Triple H. Or maybe they were cheering for Scott Steiner. I don't remember, and I don't care to remember because it was bad. It was god-awful. One of the worst WWE World Heavyweight Championship matches in history was Scott Steiner and Triple H. Royal Rumble is bad, and No Way Out was no better. Thankfully, Triple H retained and defeated Scott Steiner because I didn't want to see Scott Steiner win the World Heavyweight Championship. I just did not, even though in 03 I really disliked Triple H a lot in the backstage politics and all that bullshit that he was basically running the show backstage. And he would not really lose the title to anybody and not put anybody over except Goldberg. He put him over in September 03, but that didn't last long. So, up next at No Way Out 03 was Eric Bischoff, the Raw general manager, taking on the returning Stone Cold Steve Austin. This was awesome. The crowd reaction was great. They popped like hell when they heard that Stone Cold Steve Austin glass break and his theme hit. The crowd went wild. They exploded. It was awesome. And Stone Cold basically beat the crap and beat the dog shit out of Eric Bischoff. That was also great to see. And the storyline they built was basically that Stone Cold hated Eric Bischoff, and in the past, in 94 or 95, Eric Bischoff supposedly called Stone Cold and fired him, or called him and told him he was going to fire him. And Bischoff claims that Stone Cold was in the background of the phone call and Stone Cold was yelling at him that he didn't care. Or Stone Cold's in the background yelling at Bischoff, he didn't give a damn, fire him if he wants. So then Bischoff supposedly, I don't know if it's true, he sent a FedEx package with I guess a letter in it saying to Stone Cold, you're terminated, your WCW contract is terminated. So Bischoff fired Austin through the mail. Fired him from WCW. So there was probably a little bit of heat there, but in real life, backstage, I'm sure Stone Cold and Bischoff made up and talked about it. Like men. Anyways, Stone Cold returned, beat the crap out of Bischoff. Every fan wanted to see that, and it was great. Great booking to put Stone Cold back in the ring with absolutely hated heel in Eric Bischoff. Main event was The Rock, and Rock was working as a heel for the first time since probably 98. The Rock was, Rock was heel for a little bit in 99, but then he turned babyface real quick, like right after Backlash 99. The Rock turned babyface and basically stayed babyface until he left in 2002. Anyways, The Rock came back in January 03, cut these promos on via satellite, and he was basically ripping the fans, and he was a heel, and he was a damn good heel. So The Rock took on Hulk Hogan. This was billed as Rock versus Hogan #2. First match was epic at WrestleMania 18. It was epic because of crowd reaction to it. Wasn't that great of a match, but it was pretty good for Hogan being up there in his 50s at the time, or I think he's in his 50s, or at least 49 years old. So The Rock defeats Hulk Hogan. Vince McMahon got involved. Basically, if I remember right, I think Vince screwed Hogan. Vince tore his shirt off, or took his shirt off, buttoned up shirt off, and had a Hollywood or Hulkamania shirt under. And then he ripped it off. He mocked Hogan, did this. It was basically mocking Hogan, making fun of him. And The Rock won, and I believe Vince hit Hogan with a chair to let The Rock win. Something like that. Anyways, Vince probably screwed Hogan. No Way Out 03, if I would rate it, I would give it 1 to 10. I would give it probably a 8. Very good pay-per-view. I wish Triple H versus Scott Steiner would have not been on it. But other than that, all the matches were entertaining. Now I'm going to talk about WrestleMania 19, which took place from baseball stadium, Seattle Mariners Stadium, Safeco Field. However you say it, Safeco Field. Cruiserweight. First Sunday Night Heat before the pay-per-view WrestleMania 19 on Sunday Night Heat, they had a fatal four-way, I believe, for the tag team titles. The tag titles that were on Raw. I believe Lance Storm and William Regal did lose them to Rob Van Dam and Kane. So we had new tag champs crowned before WrestleMania 19. And also, I believe that John Cena was injured, had a knee injury or something. Cena came out on Sunday Night Heat, cut a promo, and basically ripped some rapper. I forget who the hell the rapper was. I think he was a rapper called Mace. He ripped him. Ripped Jay-Z because I guess Jay-Z or somebody, Jay-Z or Eminem, were supposed to be at WrestleMania 19, and they were supposed to go up against John Cena in a rap battle. That would have been a little kind of entertaining, but Jay-Z said no or something, or the negotiations between Jay-Z and WWE broke down, or Eminem and the negotiations with Eminem broke down, so no rappers appeared at WrestleMania 19 to battle rap John Cena and his Doctor of Thugonomics gimmick that he had. At least the Doctor of Thugonomics gimmick and the Word Life gimmick was way more entertaining than what he does now. And what he's been doing for the last 10 years, the same old shit. Over 10 years he's been doing the same old shit and not being entertaining or creative at all, really. At least his raps to the ring when he was a heel and a babyface, his raps to the ring about his opponent, at least those were entertaining. At least I thought they were entertaining. So, as I said, new tag champs happen on Sunday Night Heat, and John Cena does a little shoot promo towards Jay-Z and some other rapper, saying how they were scared to come to WrestleMania to face him to rap him. So now WrestleMania starts. To open up WrestleMania 19, you had the Cruiserweight Championship on the line. Matt Hardy defeated Rey Mysterio Jr. This was a good Cruiserweight title match. It was entertaining. I thought Rey was going to win the title, but he did not. I think that was bad booking on WWE's part. And Matt Hardy, I believe, was Cruiserweight champion for a pretty damn long time. Probably over 200 days. Eventually, Rey Mysterio did win the Cruiserweight title, I believe, from Matt Hardy on a SmackDown. But in my opinion, they should have put Rey Mysterio over in his first ever WrestleMania. They should have put Rey over to win the title. Up next was The Undertaker, and his streak was on the line. The Undertaker and his partner was supposed to be this big, giant guy, looked jacked up on steroids. His name was Nathan Jones. I guess he was an actor in a couple action movies. He's been in a couple action movies. He was in WWE's action movie with Stone Cold called The Condemned. He was in that, in a fight scene with Stone Cold, I believe, if I remember right. So Nathan Jones, they tried to make, I believe he was also a wrestler in Australia or New Zealand or somewhere. One of those places. Nathan Jones was a wrestler, so WWE signed him and thought that they could get him over and teach him how to wrestle better to become a monster heel and a star. Well, it did not work out. He was gone. He stayed around, I believe, until Survivor Series 03, and then Nathan Jones was gone off the face of the WWE Universe's earth and out of the company. So Nathan Jones didn't even compete in this handicap match that Undertaker's in. He came down towards the end of the match and tried to save Taker and whatever. Undertaker defeats Big Show and Albert, and the streak continues for The Undertaker being undefeated at WrestleMania. So now, and Taker pinned A-Train to win the match. It wasn't Albert, his name was A-Train. I forgot about that. Trish Stratus, this was a great triple threat match for the Women's Championship. Trish Stratus defeated Jazz to win the women's title, and Victoria was also in the match. Victoria was a great heel. She had a great character. Her character was like psycho bitch, or psycho woman. I don't know what the hell you call it. Just a crazy ass lady that was always attacking Trish Stratus. So Trish defeats Victoria and Jazz to win the women's title. That was great. I was happy because I was a big Trish fan. I was a big Trish Stratus mark and fan of hers. So I was happy for her to win the title at WrestleMania, the grandest stage of them all. Up next was for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, Shelton Benjamin, Charlie Haas, Team Angle defeated Eddie Guerrero and Chavo Guerrero, and defeated Chris Benoit and Rhino in a triple threat. This was a great triple threat tag match. It was pretty entertaining. It wasn't that long, but it didn't need to be that long. It was good action, fast-paced, good wrestling action, good tag team action. And Charlie and Benjamin retain their SmackDown tag team titles. I think they were just called the WWE Tag Team Championships on Raw. They were called the World Tag Team Championships. Up next, this was not good. When I look back on this match now, it seems like it was a burial. Triple H burying Booker T and trying to basically kill his career as a singles star, as a singles babyface. Triple H killed Booker T. I thought Booker T should have won this match and won the World Heavyweight Championship, but no. Triple H would not allow it because of his goddamn ego at the time. So Triple H with Ric Flair wins and defeats Booker T, which I thought was the absolute wrong decision. I thought Booker should have won the title. But Triple H again holding down talent back in 03 and 04 and 02. Now up next, or it was before the World Heavyweight Championship, Shawn Michaels defeated Chris Jericho. This was a great build-up to their match. Great build-up, and their feud was great going into WrestleMania. And Jericho and Shawn Michaels, as expected, they put on a hell of a match. It was a 5-star match. It was very good. They worked really well together. They clicked in the ring together. They had great chemistry. It was awesome. Jericho and HBK from WrestleMania 19 was very, very good. I really enjoyed it. And Shawn Michaels defeated Jericho. I almost was going to say Jericho defeated HBK, but I would have been wrong. HBK wins in his WrestleMania return. First WrestleMania match since WrestleMania 14 was at WrestleMania 19, his first WrestleMania match. Now, it was Hulk Hogan versus Mr. McMahon on SmackDown. They had a contract signing where Vince, I believe, hit Hogan with a chair in the head, busted Hogan open. Hogan bled a lot, and then Vince got Hogan's blood on his hands and signed Vince signed his name on the contract, I guess, in Hogan's blood. So he signed the contract in Hogan's blood, and then he took, I guess, Hogan's blood and put HH on the contract for Hulk Hogan. So this match had great build-up also. It built up, and the storyline was that Hogan, or who created the WWE and who made it the success that it was. Was it Vince or was it Hogan? Who deserved the most, what is the word? Who deserved the most for the success of the WWF and WWE? Was it Hogan? Did Hogan build the company, and did he put WWF on his back and build them? Or did Vince do it in the business side of things, in the office, putting the deals together? I believe both Vince and Hogan. If it wasn't for both of them, WWE wouldn't even be around today, in my opinion. They both had a huge part in making WWE successful and to still being around today and to being so big as they are today. They got their own goddamn network, so they're pretty successful, in my opinion. Even if the attendance and ratings are down, they still got their own network. They're still making millions and millions of dollars, probably hundreds of millions of dollars every year. They made probably $100 million on WrestleMania 31. They probably made $100 million just off the merchandise and ticket sales. Or maybe the number is 65 million. Doesn't matter. They're still making hundreds of millions of dollars every year, so they're a success. Even though the live attendance and ratings are down. Well, I'm sure the attendance and ratings, they go up and down. Wrestling goes through cycles, people. It goes up and down. So, Hogan and Vince was built very well, and surprisingly, they had a pretty good match. Vince couldn't wrestle ever. He was never a good wrestler. The only thing he was good at was getting his ass kicked and bleeding. So that's what Vince was good for. He wasn't a wrestler. I mean, he was a great heel because people would pay to see Vince get his ass kicked. So Vince, as a heel, Mr. McMahon, did put asses in seats because people would pay actually to see Vince get his ass kicked. For years and years, Vince wrestled people, and people wanted to pay to see Vince get his ass kicked. As Mr. McMahon, they paid when he took on Stone Cold. That feud, they paid when Vince took on The Undertaker. When Vince took on Shawn Michaels, they paid to see it. And when Vince took on Hogan, people paid to see it because they wanted to see Mr. McMahon get his fucking ass kicked. And he usually did. I don't think Mr. McMahon ever won a match, except for the Royal Rumble 99. Anyways, Hogan and Vince was surprisingly good. Hogan did his usual spots. He hawked up. He did his big boot, did his leg drop, got the crowd fired up. The crowd was really into this match. They were really into this Hogan versus Mr. McMahon matchup. Hogan hawked up. Both guys bled a lot. Vince actually came off of a ladder and did a leg drop on Hogan through the announcer's table at ringside. I don't remember if it was a SmackDown announce table or Spanish announce table. I don't remember. But Vince hit a leg drop through a table onto Hogan. That was a pretty decent spot. And Vince brought a pipe in the ring. And then you had some guy in a trench coat with a hood on, dressed up, standing in the ring. A mystery man appeared. Nobody knew who the hell it was. I didn't know it was going to be Roddy Piper. And then he takes off the hood, takes off the jacket, and he's in his kilt and Roddy Piper hot rod shirt. It's Roddy Piper. That was pretty damn shocking, and it was awesome to see Piper back in the WWE. I've always been a fan of Roddy Piper. I respected the hell out of him. So I was glad to see him back home in the WWE where he started and where he made a name for himself. That was just really great to see Piper back at WrestleMania 19, and I still can't believe that Roddy Piper is dead. It's shocking and sad. Okay, I'm going to end this video pretty damn soon because I don't want it going 45 minutes. Anyways, Piper shows up, picks up the pipe, and Vince and Hogan both staring at him like who's Piper going to take out. Piper pushes Vince down with his foot, pushes Vince down a couple times, and then Hogan gets up, turns around, I think, and Piper, of course, because his rivalry with Hulk Hogan in the 80s, he hated Hogan. Storyline wise, I don't think they ever hated each other. I mean, their feud in the 80s was pretty intense, but I'm sure Hogan and Piper respected each other even right before Roddy Piper died. I'm sure he respected and liked and was thankful for everything that Hulk Hogan did for wrestling. So I'm sure Hogan and Piper made up obviously they probably made up because Piper went to WCW. I'm sure because Hogan probably talked him into it, or gave him a call, or Hogan told Bischoff to probably call Piper and get him a contract to show up in WCW. I'm sure Hogan had a part of that, getting Piper to WCW, because Bischoff didn't really know Roddy Piper at all. Hogan is the one that worked with him. So anyways, Piper drills Hogan with a steel pipe. That was awesome. The crowd popped. The crowd was shocked to see Piper there. Then Piper leaves the ring. I think he does this. I think he goes like this, does a F-U to Vince and Hogan, and then leaves the ring. That was a shocking return. Nobody, I don't think, expected to see Roddy Piper back at WrestleMania 19. And sadly, his 2003 run wouldn't last long. WWE ended up releasing Roddy Piper just because he made some comments on an HBO show about wrestling, and some dumbass guy that's interviewing Piper basically kept asking Piper, are the promoters or is Vince McMahon to blame for all these wrestling deaths? And I guess Piper said in the interview that Vince was to blame or something like that. Or he didn't know why all his friends were dying. And he claimed or said all his friends were dying basically because Vince McMahon and the WWF at the time all his friends ran them too hard and wouldn't let them get off the road. Whatever. I don't think Piper meant that, and HBO probably mixed his words up and probably screwed him in the interview and edited the interview to make Piper and WWE look bad, so then Piper had to take the heat and get fired for it. So Piper's only around from WrestleMania 19 until June or July of 03, and then they released him because of an HBO interview Piper did. Anyways, Hogan and Vince, WrestleMania 19 was great. I enjoyed the match. I'm not saying it was a good match because it wasn't any good wrestling in it, but I enjoyed it. Now the main event was, I think this was the last match. Let me look it up here. So, no, up next was The Rock taking on Stone Cold Steve Austin, which this would be, nobody knew it at the time. WWE didn't announce it. I don't think WWE even knew this was Stone Cold's last match, and if WWE did know, I'm sure they would have promoted the hell out of it, because they just would have. Probably get people to buy WrestleMania, saying this is Stone Cold's last match at WrestleMania 19, so to get people to order it. Anyways, The Rock, WrestleMania, this was their third match, not in a row, but their third WrestleMania match against each other. They had a great rivalry, did The Rock and Stone Cold. They had great chemistry in the ring, and they also had pretty damn good matches against each other. And WrestleMania 19 was no different. Stone Cold and The Rock again delivered and put on a main event type matchup. The Rock this time defeats Stone Cold Steve Austin. In the past, WrestleMania 15 and WrestleMania 17, Stone Cold defeated The Rock. So The Rock put over Stone Cold in Stone Cold's last match. I'm sure he told The Rock privately that this was his last match, and so Stone Cold put over The Rock for The Rock doing a favor at WrestleMania 15 and 17. Stone Cold, The Rock, it was a very good match at WrestleMania 19. It was very good. Might have been their best WrestleMania match. I'm not sure about that, but it was better than 15. So The Rock gets his first victory at WrestleMania over Stone Cold Steve Austin. And as I said, it was a good match. Main event, it could have main evented WrestleMania. And Hogan and Vince, I also thought could have main evented WrestleMania 19. Now the main event, the match that ended the show and did main event WrestleMania, and it should have. because it's for the WWE Championship. The WWE Championship match, in my opinion, should always end a WrestleMania. Because the title, the WWE title, it is a main event, and it should be treated like it is a main event. Or having the title on the line makes sense to have it as a main event. Hopefully Kane and Rollins main event Hell in a Cell, because it is for the title. And the title should definitely go over any other match. That's what I'm trying to say. The WWE Championship should go above and beyond any other match at WrestleMania and go on last. Brock Lesnar defeats Kurt Angle for the title to win the WWE Championship. Kurt Angle was pretty injured in this match. He had his neck was really hurting him. He needed to go get surgery, but he put the surgery off just to work with Brock and put Brock over because he wanted to do it. Probably wanted to do it for WWE, put off the surgery, and he wanted to do it for Brock. He wanted to put Brock over and have a match with Brock to put him over. Brock and Kurt Angle were pretty damn close at the time. I don't know if they're still close friends. I don't know if they talk. I don't know. But at the time, they were close because they both were great amateur wrestlers. They have that in common, and they both were really damn good pro wrestlers. So Kurt Angle puts over Brock Lesnar before he has to leave and go get neck surgery. And Kurt Angle, if he would have landed wrong in that match, if he would have landed wrong or something, or been nervous and landed wrong, he could have absolutely ended his career in that match. If something would have went wrong, and if Brock would have dropped Kurt on his neck or on his head, it would have been bad, and Kurt probably would have had his career ended and even could have ended up paralyzed. So I'm glad Kurt Angle was not injured severely in the match. I'm sure he was beat up and his neck was hurting like hell after the match. It was reported that after the match, Kurt Angle was backstage throwing up and freezing cold, shaking, shivering, and they had to take him to the hospital. And they also had to take Brock Lesnar to the hospital too because he suffered a really bad concussion. During the match, Brock tried to hit a shooting star press, which for him to even think to do that is insane and crazy. But I know Brock could hit a shooting star because he's done a shooting star press many times in dark matches and at house shows. So I knew he could do a shooting star. But Kurt Angle was real far away from him. He was way on the other side of the ring, and Brock still tried to do the shooting star, and he missed. He missed and landed basically almost on his head. He didn't even get his head turned. He landed on top of his forehead and head. So Brock tries the shooting star. He's way too far away from Angle. That was a mistake for him to try a shooting star because he was too far away and he wasn't going to make it. But Brock thought in his brain, I'm sure he thought, I'll make it because I'm a super athlete. Whatever. So Brock basically lands on his head, and he wasn't moving for a while. And then he finally started moving, but you could tell the look after the match, the look on Brock's face was out of it. He was spaced out. He didn't know where he was. If you look in his eyes, his eyes are glazed over. And I don't even know if Brock remembers the end of the match and even knows he won the title. And then backstage, the doctors and everybody was trying to get Brock to go to the hospital and get checked because he got a concussion, but he didn't want to. He did not want to. He was refusing, but then he eventually went. So Brock wins the title. That was great to see at WrestleMania 19. The shooting star press was not great to see. It was scary as hell to watch. But thankfully, Brock didn't get hurt bad. Because Brock also, if you would have landed on top of his head, doing that shooting star, he could have landed on top of his head and could have been a career-ending injury. So I'm glad it wasn't. Because no wrestler deserves to get a career-ending injury like a broken neck and be paralyzed. No wrestler deserves that. Not even Sheamus, and I hate Sheamus. I really dislike the man, but he doesn't even deserve to be paralyzed and have a career-ending injury. So, that was WrestleMania 19. If I'd grade it, or rate it, I would give it, from 1 to 10, I'd give WrestleMania 19 10. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a damn good WrestleMania. I thought it was better. I thought it was better than 18. So, very good WrestleMania. So, this ends my year in wrestling 2003 part 1 video. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you, if you watched any bit of it, if you watched 5 minutes or 25 minutes, thank you very much for watching any of my videos. I really, really appreciate it. Follow me on Twitter at TNA WWE Guy, and I'm also at NXT WWE Guy. Bye for now, everybody.